Senator Bayh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for your testimony today and for your excellent written submission to the committee. And I want to thank you both for your service to our country. I was particularly interested in your remarks about the importance of coordinating and improving the communication among the different service branches. Senator Rockefeller asked about that at some length, so I won't get into that. Sandy, I'd like to ask you, Brent, I think you covered it pretty well. In your comments, you suggested that within the Department of Homeland Security, there be a unit focused upon coordinating intelligence. What does that say? What is your opinion about how that would interface with the FBI? Does that mean you agree with Senator Rockefeller's skepticism about whether the FBI can be reformed to carry out that function, or
no? I don't think it devalues or undermines the FBI in any way. I think that we can either reform the FBI to make it more focused on counterterrorism, or invent a new institution and have to build it from scratch. It seems to me to make more sense, at least in the first instance, to try to make the FBI, as Mr. Mueller is trying to do, into primary focus counterterrorism prevention. They do have a lot of talented people and skills in investigation. Now, they're collecting, essentially, and analyzing. CIA is collecting and analyzing. They both have CTC, counterterrorism centers. One of the things we did, by the way, was we took a FBI person and made him deputy at the CIA Counterterrorism Center, and we took a CIA person and made him or her deputy at the FBI CTC Center. Obviously, that was helpful, but not enough. We also had a counterterrorism group that was taking the information that it had and looking at it collectively. But I believe to have a fusion cell in the new department would not be a collection agency. It would be an analytical function. It would take all of the information that it got from the CIA, that it got from DIA, that it got from NRO, that it got from FBI, and it would be dedicated to looking at this. And if it was a second pair of eyes or set of eyes to what was happening in the constituent agencies, all the better.
This is something we need to devote, from my perspective, the two big issues we need to grapple with going forward are how to better coordinate and improve communication among the different agencies. You've both spoken to that. Senator Rockefeller spoke to that. And then what to do about our domestic security and intelligence gathering capacities and how to optimize those. I must say that I've told this to Senator Rockefeller. I share some of his concerns in this area, and it's one of the big picture items I think we need to think through. So we deeply appreciate the insights that both of you can share with regard to that. Just a couple of other things, because I know I don't have much time. This is a little bit sensitive, but I think we need to address it. We're now focused upon Iraq and what to do about the weapons of mass destruction there, largely being driven by their leader, Saddam Hussein. The question, gentlemen, specifically, I'd be interested in your perspective on both. As you know, it's prohibited by federal statute. It's a felony for us to authorize the killing of a head of state. And there are there are executive orders that restrict our ability to eliminate individuals who are non-heads of state. Is that a policy we should rethink? We're in the process here of putting an untold number of American servicemen and women in harm's way, and yet we're constrained from accomplishing a similar objective through more precise and direct means. Do either of you have an opinion about whether we should revisit these restrictions?
I think they were put into office when General Scowcroft was National Security Advisor the first time.
Yes,
so I will defer to him.
Yes,
first.
they were. I believe we should probably rescind them. One of the objections to rescinding then is that it encourages terrorists to think that it's okay to eliminate heads of state. But it gets us into all sorts of complications and drawing legalistic lines. One of the things we found out in 1989, there was an attempted coup in Panama, and we tried to help a little, but not very much. After we were looking into it, and what we found is that some of the CIA personnel who were, I wouldn't say involved, but who knew about it and were meeting with the coup plotters and so on, were concerned about being accessories, because if you mount a coup, you know, it's very likely there are going to be some people killed. So we tried afterwards to amend the executive order to take account of that. But it seems to me highly legalistic. It was designed specifically after the investigations of the intelligence community in 1975 with some pretty far-fetched attempts at Fidel Castro. I think it's anachronistic, and we ought to be duly respectful of all the reasons why you might not want to do that. But to be proscribed, I think, is a mistake.
Senator, let me have a, I don't know whether this is a slightly different perspective or not. The executive order was, we received rulings from the Department of Justice. The executive order did not prohibit our ability, prohibit our efforts to try to kill bin Laden, because it did not apply to situations in which you're acting in self-defense or you're acting against command and control targets against an enemy, which he certainly was. Query whether or not actions against, if self-defense can justify a war, then presumably it can justify somewhat more surgical action. And so while I do have some of the concerns that General Scowcroft has, if I believe that it was not an impediment to surgical actions with respect to an enemy, as it was not in the case of bin Laden and might not be in the case of Saddam Hussein, I'd have to then measure the fact that as a practical matter, it didn't stop us from doing anything, from the public international blowback or that we would get from the symbolic statement that we're now going to go around killing foreign leaders. I mean, I think it depends a lot on whether it is a practical constraint about doing, with respect to doing with Saddam Hussein what the President may believe is necessary. I believe legally, based on the rulings that we got, that it would not be a bar to targeting in self-defense, a command and control target. And if the head of the Army is not a command and control target, I don't know what is.
Mr. Chairman, I see my time has expired. I would just add one comment. We have heard, we can't discuss it in this forum, obviously, but we've heard from some of the folks who deal in these kind of areas, and they're pretty reluctant, absent an express authorization, to wander too far down that path for fear of having the wrong legal interpretation, someday being faced with a lawyer who has a different analysis of some kind. So I do think it's an issue we ought to...
They certainly would have to have clarity from the President of the United States or something.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.